Imagine commanding over 250,000 men, trapped in a city under siege, knowing every decision could cost thousands of lives. Now imagine being ordered to stand your ground by a tyrant, even as starvation and winter close in. Friedrich Paulus, the German field marshal of Stalingrad, faced exactly that, and his final words before death would shock the world. What he admitted at the end changes everything we thought we knew about duty, obedience, and conscience. Friedrich Paulus' name has echoed through history, not just as a commander of men, but as a figure whose final words revealed the haunting weight of loyalty, discipline, and conscience. Few moments in history carry the same unsettling power as a man, once at the center of one of World War II's most decisive battles, confessing truths that no one expected him to voice. Historians were stunned. Researchers were taken aback. And even those closest to his story found themselves grappling with the stark honesty of his final reflection. Born on September 23, 1890, in the modest town of Breitenau, Hesse, Germany, Friedrich Paulus' early life gave little hint of the historical role he would one day occupy. His father, a schoolteacher, instilled in him the value of order and discipline, while his mother, rooted in farming traditions, brought a quiet resilience to the household. Friedrich grew up in a life defined by structure, yet it was his natural reserve and methodical nature that set him apart. Unlike children who craved adventure or dared the impossible, he observed, measured, and planned. Those who knew him described a young man serious beyond his years, polite to a fault, and meticulous in all matters. He was not destined for immediate heroics, but his precision and patience would prove invaluable. As a teenager, Friedrich aspired to serve in the Imperial German Navy, drawn to the romance of the open sea and disciplined life aboard ships. Yet his health and lack of influential connections barred him from that path. Instead, fate led him to the army. Just 19, he joined the 111th Infantry Regiment as an officer cadet, stepping into a world of drills, hierarchy, and unyielding order. He was not a natural warrior, but his reliability, careful judgment, and attention to detail marked him as a man suited for staff work, tasks where strategy and logistics mattered more than bravado on the battlefield. When the First World War erupted in 1914, Friedrich found himself behind the lines, coordinating supplies and managing operations. While others sought glory in the mud and blood of the trenches, he earned a reputation for keeping order amidst chaos. His superiors valued his precision and steady hand, qualities that, in the uncertainty of war, could make the difference between survival and catastrophe. It was during this period that his personal life also took shape. He married Elena Rossetti Salescu, a Romanian noblewoman, whose grace and poise provided him with a stability he would carry through years of tumult. After the war, Germany lay in ruins. The Treaty of Versailles dismantled its military and humiliated its people. Many officers were dismissed, yet Friedrich's dependability kept him in service. In the fragile years of the Weimar Republic, he advanced steadily, not through charisma or political maneuvering but through calm competence. By the 1930s, as Hitler rose to power, Paulus remained a professional soldier, focused on planning and execution rather than personal glory or ideology. He was the man who could calculate supply lines, anticipate the needs of men, and map movements with meticulous precision, a role that would soon thrust him into the crucible of history. By 1939, when the Second World War began, Paulus was still largely unknown to the public. He was a career officer, skilled in organization and strategy, whose rise had been steady and quiet. Yet the rapid expansion of Germany's military opened doors that years of patient service had quietly prepared him to walk through. Initially, he served under high-ranking officers in staff roles, coordinating men, tanks, and supplies across vast territories, a behind-the-scenes architect of early German victories. His precision did not win headlines, but it won trust. During the invasion of France in 1940, Paulus worked as a senior staff officer under General Walther von Reichenau, translating ambitious strategies into executable plans. While others basked in public acclaim, his contributions were largely invisible to the world. His aptitude for organization and logistics earned him recognition among the upper echelons, paving the way for his eventual promotion to Deputy Chief of Staff. Even then, his reserved nature and deference to superiors defined him. He did not challenge, he followed. and this unwavering obedience would later shape the most fateful moments of his career. In 1941, Operation Barbarossa, the largest military campaign in history, was launched against the Soviet Union. Paulus played a significant role in its planning, coordinating the immense logistics of moving millions of men deep into enemy territory. Early successes masked the impossibility of the task. Supply lines stretched to their breaking point, harsh winters loomed, and resistance stiffened. Paulus, always the methodical planner, began to emerge from the shadows, recognized not for daring but for his ability to manage complexity under pressure. By 1942, his quiet competence earned him command of the Sixth Army, a force of more than 250,000 men, tanks, and artillery. Tasked with capturing Stalingrad, a city that was both strategically vital and symbolically charged, Paulus faced a challenge that would test every principle of discipline and duty he had ever known. The initial advance was swift, German troops pressing into the city with confidence. But as summer waned, supply lines frayed, winter approached, and Soviet reinforcements closed in, the situation spiraled into a nightmare. Streets, factories, and even sewer tunnels became battlegrounds, as soldiers fought street by street, often alongside civilians determined to resist at any cost. By November, Operation Uranus struck. Soviet forces attacked the weaker Axis allies on the flanks, encircling the Sixth Army in a tightening noose. More than 250,000 men were trapped. A breakout was possible, but Hitler, far from the front, ordered Paulus to hold Stalingrad at all costs, promising airlifted supplies that could never materialize. Bound by a lifetime of obedience, Paulus complied. Men starved, froze, and perished while ammunition dwindled and hope faded. Generals urged defiance, but he hesitated. Discipline, training, and habit prevented him from taking independent action. The Sixth Army withered inside the Soviet trap. Engagement question, 350 words mark at this critical juncture, Friedrich Paulus faced a moral crossroads: obey a tyrant's impossible orders or defy them to save thousands of lives. If you were in his position, would obedience or initiative have been the greater act of courage? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to know what you think. By January 1943, the battle had reached its devastating conclusion. The Soviet offensive crushed the last resistance. In an unprecedented move, Hitler promoted Paulus to field marshal, a rank no German officer had ever held without achieving victory, implicitly expecting him to commit suicide rather than surrender. But Paulus chose survival over tradition. On January 31st, he surrendered, becoming the first German field marshal ever captured alive. In captivity, he joined the National Committee for a Free Germany, advocating against further Nazi resistance and urging fellow Germans to abandon Hitler's destructive path. Released after the war, he settled in East Germany, publicly presented as a general who had renounced Nazism. Yet behind the official narrative, Paulus bore the private weight of memory and regret. By 1957, his health deteriorated, and he was hospitalized in Dresden. Frail, thin, often reliant on an oxygen mask, he remained mentally sharp. It was there, in that quiet hospital room, that he spoke words which sent shockwaves across history. "I can't keep this hidden anymore. I had no intention of shooting myself for that Bohemian corporal." A pointed reference to Hitler, these words revealed a man who had followed orders even when they led to catastrophe, yet never surrendered his own moral compass. Friedrich Paulus passed away in February 1957, aged 66. His final words forced the world to confront the tension between duty and conscience. He was neither a monster nor a martyr, but a man caught between loyalty and morality, admitting at last that his obedience had come at a cost. In East Germany, he was celebrated as a symbol of redemption. In West Germany, he remained controversial, criticized for failing to save his men when retreat was still possible. Across both narratives, one truth endured: his story was singular. No other German commander had been captured alive at Stalingrad, and his surrender symbolized a turning point in the war. Historians continue to debate Paulus' legacy. Some view him as an embodiment of the dangers of blind obedience in military culture. Others see a tragic figure who recognized too late the perils of following a corrupt leader. What makes his confession timeless is its universality. It speaks not just to Stalingrad but to the eternal struggle between duty and conscience. Today, more than 6 decades after his death, Friedrich Paulus remains inseparable from Stalingrad, the battle that turned the tide of World War II and sealed the fate of Nazi Germany. His life and final words remind us that obedience without moral reflection can become a tool for destruction.